So it's pick your poison, guys. Do you want the devil you know in the current owner, who will happily make us sustainable and live within our means, but is unlikely in this current climate to ever be able to generate the levels of consistent, consecutive success that are necessary to satiate most Tottenham fans? Do you want American owners who would come with an incredible amount of currency rate risk, interest rate risk, credit risk, that would, if any major disruption happened to the US economy or to the global economy, could immediately just completely cripple the sustainability of Tottenham Hotspur's future? Do you want far recent ownership who would in all likelihood completely rip apart any privacy that you think that you would happen to want by making sure that you have a season ticket on your phone, that when you put it on in an app, it rips apart all of your private details and does what it wants with it? Or do you want Middle Eastern ownership who would ensure that you have to park your morals at the door on every major thing that makes you who you are, the way that you think about how people should be treated around the world? Pick your poison, because no particular path of ownership for me comes with any less amount of complexity than the one that we currently have. It's a very difficult one, and we're going to talk about it right now. Hi guys, how you doing? Welcome back to the Spurs Talk Show. I'm Sean Butler. Did you miss me? I've missed you. It's been a while, guys. It's been about a week, I think, since I last commented or last did a post, really. The reason being, my gimbal, my recording device that you're seeing me through right now, it has like a stability mechanism so that the camera stays still as I walk, and it's been broken. It rattled violently all the time, and it made watching the content just kind of horrible. So I sent it back, and I've been waiting patiently for the postman to get back to work and to get the replacement to me, and it arrived yesterday. So we are back, people. Bugsy's up there chasing squirrels, but she says hi, and we all hope you're doing the things that you love with the people that you love doing them with, and that you're happy and healthy. If you wouldn't mind, guys, can you do me a favor, please? And could you smash a like on the video at any point where you get the urge? Drop a comment if you have something to say. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, and also hit the notification bell if you'd like to stay abreast of when we drop the content on the regular. Usually, or hopefully, it's going to be daily now going forward, but like I say, there's been gaps, and I apologise about that. Guys, listen, I don't know where to start. I mean, I don't want to keep this going for too long because there's so many things to talk about. So I'm going to start with the Qatari thing. So, as you guys will all be aware by now, no doubt, yesterday Ben Jacobs, the reporter, dropped the bombshell, I guess, that Qatari Sports Group, who own Paris Saint-Germain, the majority owners in that football club, are looking for minority stakes in some football clubs. One of them being in the Premier League, and they've started their discussions with a number of clubs, but Tottenham is a club that they know that they have been speaking to in the last few days. It would be a minority investment, right? Let's just get through the facts of it first and foremost. Because they own Paris Saint-Germain as majority owners, they aren't allowed to have majority stakes in two football clubs that play in the same competition, or could play in the same competition, and so minority is the max. What does that look like? Well, that would be, I think, 30% at its most. What does 30% look like in terms of money? Well, it depends on the valuation of the business, right? Now, two ways you could value Tottenham Hotspur. There's many ways you could value Tottenham Hotspur. There's price earnings multiples, which is more of a kind of a stock market methodology. There is, the last price of an investment, which happened in the summer when we took 100 million of the 150 million, and that was valued at, if the 150 million was taken, then it would have increased the ownership of the club, of ENIC's ownership of the club by 2%. Simple rudimentary maths makes that valuation 7.5 billion, which is madness, but it is what it is. That's what they did. They only took 100 million of it. I think part of the reason why they only took, the 100 rather than the 150 was because they'd over-egged the pudding in the valuation, and that by valuing it at basically twice what it's probably worth, then they're paying, for a £150 million investment, they should have probably got 4% ownership increase rather than 2%. That's probably why they didn't take the last 50 million. Or maybe they didn't take the last 50 million because they've subsequently been having conversations with other people who, maybe the Qatari Sports Group, are going to come in and inject, different cash at different levels. And maybe that's their rationale and their reasoning. The other way that you can value Tottenham is by looking at complementary or relevant relative businesses. And in this case, the most obvious one would be Chelsea. Both London clubs, both have about the same brand value according to Forbes. Both have slightly different, valuations on assets. I think Chelsea have a higher squad value, or did have a higher squad value when Abramovich sold. Certainly do now, but did at the time as well. The training facilities are about equitable, and then the stadiums are in different valuations as well. But all in all, Chelsea and Tottenham are kind of probably negligible in valuations. And according to various reports, Chelsea was valued at $3.5 billion, somewhere between $3 to $4.5 billion. And so on that basis, Tottenham is valued about the same. In any event, a 30% investment from, a maximum 30% injection of cash or investment from Qataris could see $1 billion or more go into the club. Could. Not necessarily, but could, if you use those valuation metrics. Now, does that mean that Tottenham would get to keep all the money? Well, probably, because most of the time, and if a new investor comes in to an already existing investment partnership, it's usually not for the initial two to take their money out. It would be to come in, and the new injection of cash kind of lifts the valuation of all of the investors. So it would be unlikely that $1 billion, let's just use that for an example, will be taken out. However, it doesn't mean that can't be the case, and that would all be determined by the terms of the trade and the contract, of which Tottenham will never probably release, but we'll see. So that's the kind of, the maximum amount of money that you could see is about probably $1 billion coming in, and anything below that, obviously, depending on what would happen. But let's talk about now the feasibility of it really happening. I maintain the stance that I think it's usually unlikely to even envision an Arab investment group buying out a Jewish ownership of a Jewish supported football club. Politics, whether you like it or not, massively play a part. And it's just an unusual relationship to even see one party buy out the other because of the negotiation stances, and no one wants to be seen as winning or losing. And so it's just difficult to envision it. It's even more difficult to envision seeing them partner up and work together in the boardroom. And in that unlikelihood is amplified in my mind by the idea that one party is so risk averse in Daniel Levy, who doesn't want to pay the necessary fees, and the other side is so pro risk because they have a liberal disregard for the value of money because they can just pull it out of the ground anytime they want, and their ultimate desire is to always have the best of everything. Traditionally, that is kind of what history has shown us with that kind of ownership, versus somebody who wants to get the best value out of everything, which is a completely different mindset. So first and foremost, I don't think it's likely. But if it's been released as potentially true, then, do we dismiss it? Well, I don't think we can. I know a lot of people on Twitter are saying, well, it's just very convenient that, Levy out as a narrative is starting to be amplified, and so this will be the silencer. Well, maybe I can get behind that. I can understand that if it was straight out of the blue, but it's not out of the blue. Tottenham have been looking for, new investments and new ownership for quite a while. Joe Lewis, stopped his or transferred his person of significant control back in November. Before this new version of ENIC out became quite as vocal as it has been. And so I don't necessarily think that it's all about just leaking that story. On top of that, Tottenham came out and, according to Ali Gold, said that the official stance is that there hasn't been any talks between them and the Qatari investment group. So to me, like, if you were to leak the story in order to try and silence a movement, then you wouldn't come out and put an official stance out that nothing has been happened, that nothing is happening. You know, what you might do is, hey, no comment, and that would maybe then no smoke without fire and all that stuff, and it might kind of amplify more noise and then dampen the Levy out movement even more. But by coming out and having an official stance as no comment, you could give air to extinguishing the entire news story. Like, there is merit to the idea that they would just come out and push that story to try and silence this narrative that's emerging. But at the same time, they probably wouldn't go about it in the way that they have if they were trying to do it that way. I don't know. I think we should wait and see. I think that these things won't happen imminently anyway. Nothing will happen in the next, month or two. These things take a long time to figure out the right valuation, the contracts, even if it's true. But I personally don't believe it is true for the aforementioned reasons, that I just don't see Daniel Levy and his team working closely with the Qatari sports group. It would be nice to have $1 billion coming into the football club, for sure. But this is the next thing I want to ask you guys, because the conversation now should naturally turn to, are you comfortable with a group of people like them, the sports washing narrative, being associated with Tottenham Hotspur? Are you comfortable with the moral compromise? And there is the argument that says, well, no billionaire is clean. And so if you're looking for a squeaky clean billionaire to come in and invest all the money that you want into the football club, then you're going to be waiting a long time. But I think that there are levels to the corruption and to the the abuses, I guess, of the billionaires that we currently have versus the billionaires that we might have. If you're someone who's LGBTQ friendly, how do you feel about having those owners now? If you're somebody that, is an advocate of women's rights, are you comfortable with these people? Because at the end of the day, guys, if you're someone who is Levy out, then you want new owners. The only owners that you're going to have in are likely going to be coming from certain parts of the world, and each of them comes with their own risk. With the Middle East ownership consortium model, you're going to have the moral compromise risk. The ability to point fingers is removed. You're going to have fingers pointed at you. Are you cool with that? If so, okay. If not, well, where else do you go to find your money? China? What does that look like? More than likely looks like a system where if you have a season ticket, you'll have to download an app onto your phone. And having that app on your phone will give away access to every piece of private detail that you could possibly have that is stored within your phone, which is basically everything. Are you okay with that? If you are, fine. I'm not. Russian money? Forget it. That story's long gone. What's left? American money. Well, look, American money comes with its own risk. Maybe not moral compromise, maybe not privacy risk, but probably currency risk, interest rate risk, sustainability risk, credit risk. The money markets are at a point that they haven't been in the last, since 2008, in the last 15 years. Right, since the financial crisis that happened in 2008, interest rates have essentially been rock bottom and zero, and stable at zero for the longest time. That's not the case anymore. And if you wanted to have private equity or any kind of leveraged debt investment from America coming into the club, then you are going to have to take with it all sorts of risk about the volatility in interest rates. And that is a massive problem. A massive problem, because the financial markets are unstable. The economy is unstable. If inflation continues to go up at its increasing rate, then interest rates go up as well. So that will just absolutely cripple and jeopardize the future of Tottenham Hotspur. So which is it? Pick your poison. Do you want an ownership that has done well to sustain and keep you living within your means and make sure that Tottenham are a somewhat competitive entity as an ongoing concern? Or do you want people to come in who either put the sustainability of the club at risk when external economic factors can change as quickly as they are? Do you want someone to come in who has human rights abuses that are on a longer list than anything that our current ownership has been accused of doing? Do you want to give up your privacy? Pick your poison. To me, I saw Twitter yesterday come alive with an overwhelming support actually of this Qatari investment. But I found it strange because I thought it wouldn't have suited anybody's narrative. I would have thought that the idea of having Qatari money coming into a club that would still be owned and operated and ran by Daniel Levy and ENIC would be the worst of all outcomes. Because the Levy-outers don't get rid of their parasite, and the people that have that moral compromise, that moral hazard, that inability to get on board ownership models that require you to park your ethics to one side, they don't get to do that either anymore. So they're tolerating Daniel Levy now because better the devil you know, but actually the devil you don't know is now in the door as well. For me, I would have thought that it's the worst of all outcomes. Apart from people who just want success and who know that the only way to have success is to have billionaires come in and don't give a shit about any of those other things. And those people, essentially, are like sugar daddies. Oh, they want sugar daddies. They're like that 21-year-old good-looking girl who marries a 75-year-old multi-millionaire and has to do all the things that he wants so that he buys her nice things. Anna Nicole Smith kind of stuff. Is that what you want to be? Nothing comes without its consequences, guys. Nothing comes without its consequences. I don't know how I feel about this one. I'll be entirely honest. I generally think that I cannot ever become a part of the Levy out movement because that movement is based on resentment of the ownership, and I have none. I do not resent our owners. I think they've done a very good job, and I'm happy to reflect on their tenure with admiration. So I can't be part of the Levy out. Do I think that they've taken us as far as they can because the reality of the game has changed to the point where the only way you can have success is if you have a sugar daddy? Then, yeah, probably they should move on some regard. But who to? I don't know. I don't know because they all come with their own risk. I don't want to put us at economic risk. I don't particularly want to be owned by people that have the stance they do towards members of society. I also don't want to give away my privacy. So I just don't know right now how, which way is the best way to go. It feels like on any given direction, you're sacrificing a hell of a lot to chase success. And that's why I still stand by this idea that Daniel Levy and ENIC are not the problem. The problem is money in football. The problem is the way the industry has moved, and that in order to have success, you need to be owned by someone that you don't really respect or wouldn't want to shake hands with. That to me is the problem, but it is what it is. I don't think it's going to happen anyway, guys, but it does raise an interesting conversation. Let me know your thoughts. Are you cool with Qatar coming in? Are you cool with the Chinese, if that was the way to go? Would you be cool with American money if it came with all that risk? And there would be a lot of risk. Probably more risk with those than anything else. Let me know. Like, share and subscribe, guys. And as always, I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.